Well, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like cancel culture is back at it again, and this time it is going after Kirsche. Now, you're probably asking yourself, who's Kirsche? Well, not many of you, because most of you probably know who Kirsche is. Kirsche is a VTuber who dares to speak her mind, which I know in today's world is not exactly something that's very accepted. Opinions are policed heavily. Mainstream media will hunt you down for clicks over the supposed truth. And Kirsche finds herself in the crosshairs of Vice Media, which is an organization that essentially houses a bunch of angry mob of online leftists. But what's really going on here, and why does it matter more than just one creator losing sponsors? We're going to talk about it. So shout out to all of you 86,700 plus legends that are out there right now, in the nearly 44% of you that are not subscribed. Consider hitting that subscribe button and joining today. I would greatly appreciate it. So let's talk about those who are unfamiliar with Kirsche and what she actually does on her channel. So for those who are unfamiliar, Kirsche is a rising VTuber known for her, let's just say, bold opinions and unapologetic humor, and her overall refusal to bend the knee, which is really what all of this is about, by the way. Her refusal to bend the knee to political correctness and the police that surrounds that political correctness. She's built a loyal fan base by being a raw, real, and completely uncensored for the most part, which again, unsurprisingly, has ruffled feathers in the more sensitive corners, let's just say, of the internet. But recently, her presence and popularity has made her a target. Vice Media, which is a publication that's become notorious for injecting far-left ideology into multiple hit pieces, has ran an article that has painted Kirsche as supposedly problematic, bigoted, and dangerous. And what are their sources, you may be asking? Well, clearly they are tweets and clips that are usually taken out of context, and a whole lot of moral grandstanding and fake outrage that they rely on in order to push their narrative that they're looking to push. Now, again, I'm not going to sit up here and pretend as if Kirsche is magically innocent in every single scenario. To be honest with you, I don't really know Kirsche like that. I only consume her content on the random, and occasionally I will come across one of her live streams or one of her videos or whatever the case may be. Kirsche overall seems like one of these VTubers that has indeed gone into the overall political sphere. You know, for me personally, I tend to focus my content more so on the gaming industry and the entertainment industry as a whole, but every once in a while I will cover something like this because it's important to talk about it. Anytime you have the situation where a creator is being canceled because of their opinions on topics that everybody should have a right to have an opinion about, it ends up being one of those ridiculous sentiments that they try to set, which is, well, this is not cancel culture, it's consequence culture. And we all know that's BS, because it's just a group of people that are miserable with their own lives and they're trying to ruin someone else simply because of their opinions not lining up with theirs. But let's talk about the actual consequences of what happened with the fallout of Kirsche. So they were pretty fast. Following the publication of Vice's hit piece, several companies that had previously partnered with Kirsche, including the developers of the game Crime Boss, which we're going to get into later on in this video, they all dropped her. Not because she broke any rules necessarily, not because she harmed anyone, but because a media outlet and a few loud voices on Twitter didn't like her opinions or didn't like her attitude. Kirsche had then responded publicly to the backlash, stating the following: "Sponsorships are gone, not because I scammed anyone or hurt anyone, but because of a narrative that was built on lies. I will keep speaking the truth even if they try to silence me." And again, this isn't just about one creator losing money. It's about a system that punishes people for not conforming to any one particular ideology. And I want to make it very clear, I am not taking anyone's side necessarily in this particular video. I just want to talk about the cancellation itself and how ridiculous it is that we are in a world where people feel like they need to go after someone's money, livelihood, or just in general themselves. They threaten them a lot of the time. They want to do this simply because they saw something online that they just couldn't understand how they could be saying that, right? A lot of these people live in echo chambers and they don't realize it. They don't realize that they're in a world that their own little bubble is highly protected. And the moment that bubble is even remotely pierced, you end up with a situation like what we have here happening before us. This is not the first time this has happened, by the way. It's a very familiar story. We've seen it happen to creators like PewDiePie, for example, who was pretty much labeled everything under the sun based on multiple manipulated clips. And then we also saw it happen recently to Gina Carano, who, by the way, is still suing Disney over this. She lost her role at The Mandalorian for political opinions that over half the country holds, ironically. But what happened after all of those cancellations, you're probably saying? Did they actually get canceled? Well, not exactly. PewDiePie is still one of the most successful creators on the planet to ever grace the platform of YouTube, and Gina Carano landed her own movie deal shortly after the supposed cancellation and is doing just fine. She manages to fill up lines upon lines upon lines of fans at every convention she goes to and makes more money probably doing that than she ever did being featured in The Mandalorian. How ironic is that? If you want to talk about another target of cancel culture that has always failed, we could talk about Dave Chappelle. He's supposedly another canceled figure, and yet somehow, some way continues to sell out every single show that he does. And not only that, every special that he releases on Netflix is a banger, to the point where Netflix themselves, one of the wokest companies out there, absolutely will not cancel him. Even though they have done it to other people in the past, they won't cancel Dave Chappelle. Some say it's because he's black, other people say it's because they can't, because they need him. His shows are so successful on Netflix that they absolutely need him. So the ultimate truth is that when cancel culture overreaches, and trust me, it always does, it eventually collapses under its own weight, because most people just aren't buying the BS anymore. Most people aren't buying the fake moral grandstanding anymore, or the fake outrage anymore. It's just not being bought. So now, why does this all matter? Well, if cancel culture succeeds in silencing Kirsche, it's going to send the following message, which really is, if you step out of line, you'll be erased or you'll be dealt with. And that's pretty ridiculous, because again, it just doesn't stop with influencers. It bleeds into everything that we talk about and everything that we do on a daily basis. It'll bleed into your gaming, which, by the way, it already has. It'll bleed into film, which again, it already has. Politics, obviously, and just everyday life in general. This isn't just a war on Kirsche that they might be trying to do. It's a war on individuality, which has been happening for a long time. A war on basically comedy, which again, people try to say comedy is dead because everybody wants to get offended over everything. It's a war on just overall dissent. And when dissent is punished, you don't get justice, you get tyranny, which again, this is what we are experiencing every single day. So now let's go over Kirsche's statement, because she actually made a statement over on Twitter recently where she talks about the overall thing that happened with the company that is behind the video game Crime Boss. Now, this is why I'm particularly covering this, because she is a influencer that is in the gaming space, but this is also a video game developer studio that has decided to part ways with Kirsche because of a hit piece from Vice, because of nothing else other than the hit piece from Vice. That is literally it. They decided to say, yep, they're guilty, she's guilty because I believe so, and Vice said so. This is what happened. So with that being said, and keep in mind, this company has doubled down, by the way, which we'll get into in a second as well. So this is Kirsche's statement. She says, a month into a life ruination campaign started by people who hate me, and during a pre-planned vacation where communication and access to my home and resources were minimal, in-game studios, developers of Crime Boss Rockay City, a game that I loved and heavily promoted since its release in 2023, dropped their relationship with me. They were swayed by anonymous posts, Reddit users who admit to not watching me, people who lie by omission, and people who strawman all of my stances. And to cap it off, a muckraker from a dying news outlet with an axe grind decided to compile it all into an article with no more integrity than the Tumblr blog they not doubt had, or I should say no doubt had. That's just reading her comments. This company is not experiencing cancel culture. My audience were paying customers who are voting with their voice and their wallet after a company makes an astronomically poor decision that they disagree with. They are not review bombs. These are not people who don't own the game brigading. In-game are experiencing what happens when you capitulate to cancel culture. These two things are not the same. It's incredibly obvious and everybody knows it. You people held this power to ruin others reputationally and financially for years, and we are now standing up for ourselves. So fuck you, fuck cancel culture, and fuck the Darvo that happens when anyone decides to defend themselves. You reap what you sow. So what is she talking about? Well, apparently Crime Boss, or whatever the name of this game is, Crime Boss Rockay City, is experiencing some very interesting developments happening after the whole cancellation with Kirsche, and let's go over it. So if we go over to SteamDB, we are starting to notice that the player count, I should say, is starting to massively drop. If you look at the trend though, it's so funny how Kirsche is actually the one that seemingly has revived this video game. You know, when this game was released all the way back on Monday of June 17, 2024, it had an all-time peak of 6,674 players. And then not even just all the way in August or even September of that same year in 2024, it went from 6,600 to 433. The game had essentially died for the most part. And then back in Monday of the April 7, 2025, it now jumped to 7,586 players. I don't know if this game was in early access and perhaps this was the official release. I really don't know. Oh, I don't know if this was a result of Kirsche starting to shill for the game, essentially. I really have no idea. But ultimately, what I can say is that trajectory is following again, because now, not even just a couple of months later, the game is now down to 636 people playing the game right now with a 24-hour peak of 1,034. So I think it's safe to say that with removing Kirsche, you essentially have decided to nuke your game into orbit. Now, perhaps they made all their money. Who really knows? I don't know what the budget of this game was. Right now, there's an estimated sales of anywhere between 240,000 all the way up to 1.3 million. And these trackers are usually way wrong. They're usually much higher than what it actually is. So give or take, you got to imagine that they probably didn't make their money back, or maybe if it was a small enough budget, they did. But with Kirsche pushing this game obviously had some level of success that it wasn't going to have before. Now, here's the hilarious thing. Now you get to talk about the reviews. The reviews are so bad. Now the game is at a 59.38% positive review ratio with over 8,000 reviews, and a majority of them hyper negative. If we were to look at some of the reviews recently, you're going to notice that there is such, I mean, I haven't seen this since the Helldivers 2 debacle, when Sony tried to make it mandatory 3 months later for you to have a PSN account in order to play, when they never initially had you do that in the beginning. But if you look at this bar graph, wow, it is bad. You have 3 very long bars of nothing but negative reviews. But here's the funny thing. There is a very small, granted very small, but it is there, attempt at trying to reverse the bad reviews by everybody putting fake good reviews. But unfortunately for them, they are just nowhere near the amount of people that Kirsche has supporting her. So that bar graph, even though you can clearly see it going up to try to counter the negative reviews, it's still nowhere near enough. The negative reviews are far outweighing the positive reviews, and it has now dropped this game to a mostly negative review rating for its recent, and it mixed in the overall. I'm sure if this keeps going, the overall is going to turn to negative or mostly negative, which is going to be a bad thing for business for Crime Boss Rockay City trying to convince people to buy the game later down the line, you know, when this whole thing blows over. Now, here's an interesting fact for a lot of people that are curious about what this game is doing to try to do damage control. So Kirsche just made a recent statement that we're gonna go over, and it says, I went over this on stream today, and Asmon mentioned it as well, but on the Steam discussion page for Crime Boss Rockay City, they have been deleting threads. The largest thread in support of me was deleted last night. Meanwhile, one posted by the people who are part of the harassment campaign is still up. The company has indeed doubled down. So this company is deleting positive threads for Kirsche and leaving up the negative threads for Kirsche. So if you had any question about whether or not they were going to be a redeemable company based off their actions, let it be known that is not going to happen. It is very clear that Crime Boss Rockay City has made their choice very much known, and they are going to side with the activists. They are going to side with the people who are trying to do cancel culture, and they have made their decision. Now, granted, people are going to say, well, they're a private company. You could do what they want, blah, blah, whatever. That's such a piss poor excuse for bad actions that companies do. That's from the people who are like, leave the big corporation alone. It's those kind of people that say things like that. Those kind of people that are the bootlickers of the corporation, which is hilarious, by the way. But in any case, let's go over the overall situation now. So how do we actually fight back with all this nonsense, right? How do we fight back against the cancel culture? Well, I mean, one of the biggest things you could do is obviously support the cancel creators if they actually deserve support, right? If it's somebody who is being canceled for an opinion, that is ridiculous, and you should absolutely support them if you enjoy their content. Follow them, share their content. If they have merch, whatever the case may be, consider supporting them. Call out the hit pieces too. That's the second thing that you can do, which is partially what I'm doing in this video. Call out the nonsense, talk about the nonsense, get the conversation going. A lot of the things that these companies hate is basically conversation around them. They just want to try to operate in the shadows to the best of their ability. And if you call out the hit pieces and you talk about it, this is how you can fight back against it. Don't let these smear campaigns just go unchallenged, basically. When outlets like Vice write dishonest garbage, make noise, tweet about it, comment, make videos, expose the bias, and then try to build independent communities like what we do here over on this channel. Platforms like Rumble, for example, Locals, and Odyssey exist for a reason. The future of free expression will be decentralized. Get in early while you can and help creators build a space where they can in fact speak freely. This is why I multi-stream. I multi-stream on Rumble. I multi-stream on Twitter. I multi-stream on YouTube. I'm going to try to expand even more than that because, again, the more you can expand, the better. And never apologize to these mobs. That's also another thing that a lot of weak people do.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
They apologize to these cancel culture mobs for nonsense, for things that these moral grandstanding losers try to pass off every single day. The people that try to pretend to be so innocent and so amazing on Twitter. Oh, I never do anything like that. Meanwhile, they have some of the biggest skeletons in the closet, and you realize, wow, they're just as down and dirty as the rest of us. But they don't want you to think that. They don't want you to believe that because they love having the moral grandstanding power over you. This is something that 2020 brought upon all of us when you had the internet Karens going crazy all because you wouldn't wear a mask. They wanted to morally grandstand on you, and every opportunity they got, they took it. So Kirsche may be going through hell right now, but to be fair, she's not alone. Every person who's ever been targeted for speaking their mind pretty much stands with her, I gotta imagine, at this point. And if history is gonna tell us anything, is that cancel culture doesn't really destroy strong people. It just makes them louder. The Streisand effect is a thing, and this is why I talk about the Streisand effect so much, and why so many of these people who advocate for cancel culture can never understand how they were so ineffective. How could they have failed at canceling the supposed bigot, right? Because they view Kirsche as the bigot. They view her as the phobe. They view her as whatever. So since they are so morally incredible and they are just pure perfection when it comes to the human psyche, they don't understand how other people are resonating with that supposed bigot in their mind versus them, right? They feel like they should be getting the attention. The envy runs strong. Why is it not me? Why am I not getting the views? Why am I not getting the likes and retweets? I don't understand. I exposed the bigot. I exposed the bad person. I should be the one getting all of this now. I should be getting their audience. They don't understand that they are just one of many people on this planet. The narcissism does not allow them to view things outside their own bubble. So when the world explodes around them and they don't understand that they're the ones who are probably hated 9 out of 10 times, they tend to lose their mind, and then the claws really do come out. The only way cancel culture wins is if we ultimately just let it. So don't speak up, push back, defend creators like Kirsche, and let the media know that we're not scared of their BS and their nonsense anymore. The power that the mainstream media has is dwindling, and they know it. This is why I'm going to do a separate video covering Giant Bomb. The same exact thing. They are all going to be eventually forced to become independent, and at that point, their own skill, their own actual real clout, their own actual real talent is going to be whether or not they stand or they fall. And pretty much almost all of them are going to fall because they just don't have the talent, they just don't have the capability, and they just don't have the charisma to stand on their own 2 feet for the rest of the world to see. So shout out to Kirsche. Hopefully she gets through this, and I'm sure she's going to be perfectly fine considering what's happening with Crime Boss, the reviews, and all the nonsense that's going on right now on Twitter. She's clearly outspoken, which is a good thing. She's clearly not afraid to stay outspoken, which is also a good thing. And let's continue to support creators who want to maintain that level of outspokenness in a world where they are trying to silence everyone who just simply disagrees. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Shout out to all of the Bigot Army member legends out there. Thank you so much for joining the channel and taking that extra step. I hope you enjoy seeing your name in the credit roll at the end of every video. And if you are not a member yet, consider hitting that join button and joining the Bigot Army. I would greatly appreciate you. Shout out to everybody for liking the video, commenting. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below, and I will see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.